and good morning. Welcome, everyone. First, I want to give some thanks and praise this morning that the tropical cyclone passed Barbados and Trinidad and Tobago, and we pray that it will go on its way and with no damage in its wake. So let's continue to offer up prayers for our brothers and sisters in the region as that system passes. So thank you again, everyone, for being here this morning for our program, Another MLI Level Up. Our session today is entitled Relationship Keys for Successful Living. My name is Dawn Lane. I am the Program Development and Implementation Manager, quite a mouthful. And, let's look at what we're going to talk about today. At times like these, we have COVID still present. We have climate change, which is bringing these weather systems, and our hurricane season has started. And at times like these, with so much happening, we draw close to those that we have good relationships with. We draw close to those persons because we want some help. We draw close because we want comfort. We draw close because we want to have a good laugh. And for our relationships, our friends, to keep us safe, to keep us grounded, and to keep us sane. Yeah, and we all need that. So how do we create sustainable relationships in all areas of our lives? And most importantly, how do we create good relationships with ourselves? So let me introduce you to our facilitator today, Miss Wendy H. Lewis, who will provide us with a few keys to help us unlock some doors so that we can enter into an area, a space of successful living. So Wendy holds a master's in entrepreneurship and leadership, a diploma in child psychology, certified counselor, certified protocol officer, radio and TV host. She holds several other certifications, and she's still studying. Wendy has years of corporate training experience as the owner of the Corporate Training Academy and leads an international NGO. It's called Caribbean Women Honors and Empowerment, the Trinidad and Tobago chapter. And in that chapter, they deal with issues surrounding children, men and women, gender-based violence, and several types of abuse are addressed daily. Wendy is also the CEO of Calabash Productions. She's spoken at several events locally and regionally, from churches to the Prime Minister's residence in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. She also served as the personal protocol officer to the former Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, the late Honorable Patrick A.M. Manning. And that's quite a mouthful. Our presenter today, Wendy H. Lewis. Good morning, Wendy, and welcome.
Thank you so much. A pleasant good morning to you, Dawn. That was an amazing welcome. I loved your introduction. I got, an opportunity to learn a lot about the culture at Massey. So a pleasant good morning to all the directors, leaders, managers, your support team, everyone that took time off their schedule to join us this morning at the Massey Learning Institute for Relationship Keys for Successful Living. When I was preparing and we were having the prelude in terms of what would I talk about, and I realized that, as Dawn rightfully mentioned, we would have had the pandemic, we almost had a storm, and God has been good to all of us. And everybody really just wants a successful life. People just want a successful life, regardless to what that may be for you or what it may be for me. So I decided I'm going to share some relationship keys for successful living with you all this morning. And one of the things that I realized is that keys unlock doors. So this is what the agenda is going to look like. What does success mean to you? We will define relationship keys. I will share with you some major doors that you have a role to play and we can all win together, and then we have a moment for the Q&A. So let's make the best of it, and please remember, get your pen and paper ready, have your tablet so that you can make a note of your questions so we can win together at the end. Let's define success. For me, success is when preparation meets opportunity. How prepared are you when an opportunity presents itself? How many times have you had to say, if I was there, if I had only done this, if I had taken that call? How many times have we said that? When you go for your appraisals and you're not promoted, and you realize based on the feedback that there are some things you didn't address, and you think to yourself, had I done this better? Had I been in the right place? Had I, accepted responsibility the way that I should? And we'll get more into that when we discuss work relationships. But what does success mean to you? At the end of the day, your success is in the palm of your hands. Your success cannot be defined by anyone else. You have the opportunity to choose whether or not you would like to be prepared, unless you want opportunities to constantly be passing you by. So success is when preparation meets opportunity. Relationship keys defined. So these are the relationships we are going to address this morning in my 20 minutes. We have intimate relationships, which have an effect on your work relationships. Your work relationships have an effect on your family relationships, and all those relationships are on a bed. And that bed is filled with seeds and soils, which is your relationship with you and your God. So let's get into it. Let's start with intimate relationships. Whether you're engaged, you're married, you're dating, that is something that is supposed to be solid. And when you enter into that type of relationship, you exchange some level of commitment, which is why it's a solid door. It is a solid door and it's a secured door. And it really does affect your work relationships. How many times have you been in the workplace and somebody came to work and they may be distraught, they may be down, they may be looking different as opposed to how they would normally be, their jolly person, and it's something that happened in an intimate relationship. One of the things we have to recognize, I chose this door deliberately because it was just so perfect. These doors, for those of you all who, some of you all may have a door like this. My front door, my back door is a door like this. And when I started studying the actual door, I realized, but the door has 7 keys. And I kept asking, 7 keys, do you really need 7 spare keys? But let's flip it across metaphorically to intimate relationships. So if this is your solid door and you have 7 keys, we're talking about keys for successful living. You have to recognize the use of keys. There are different types of keys. The key that opens my SUV cannot open my front door. The key that opens my front door cannot open your front door. So different doors have different keys. And these 7 keys in your relationship. So let's say, for example, you're married. You are married and you're obviously in an intimate relationship. These 7 keys mean that should something go amiss, let's say one of your partner's parents, somebody dies, you have to pull out your empathy key. You have to pull out your sympathy key. When you go in the workplace, your colleagues need to recognize that this is what we're faced with today and pull the right key. It's about pulling the right key. Somebody in your family is going to have surgery. You have to pull out your healing key. All of this takes place in the mind. You have to know what key can open your door at any given point in time. So these 7 keys are not your mother-in-law. This is not your mother-in-law. This is not the neighbor next door. This is not your cousin who always has an input. These are, when you enter this door in your private space, this is between you and your partner, and it remains secure based on how you manage and how you utilize your keys. These keys are for you. They are keys that you can give out to someone else for them to open a door on your behalf. But your intimate relationship keys are for you. You get to choose what you pull out the hat at what stage in your life. One of these keys could be communication. One of these keys could be managing your emotional intelligence. These keys could be how you deal with your children. These keys could be how you respond or don't respond. because sometimes we react rather than respond. And at the end of the day, we have to recognize that every time you enter a relationship, doesn't matter what type of relationship it is, whether it's intimate, work related, or otherwise, you open a door. The onus is on you when to close it, when to lock it. Sometimes you have to slam it shut. A solid door, a secured door, has 7 keys. And remember, every time you enter a relationship, you open a door. Let's look at the major one. This is where I'm going to spend most of my time, on your work relationships. You notice the door is different? The door is different. This is not the same door that we just dealt with. This is a completely different door. And it says ticketing, it says check-in. But remember, before you do the ticketing and the check-in, there are counters before the door. You can't just jump on a plane like that. You have to go up to the counter. You have to show your scan, e-ticket, and then you go to the departure lounge. And there are some things you need to do before you enter the door. And even in your work relationships, those things will be your orientation. So Massey would have put out an ad. We are going to have an orientation on Saturday morning so that you understand the company, what the role requires, etc. So that is your orientation. You would have been impressive at your interview. So then you have an induction. The induction will go through in a fine-tooth comb your job description, the why of your existence. Why are you in Massey? Why are you here? And for those who are visiting from different companies, why are you wherever you are? There are counters before the door. So then you notice it's an automatic door. This is not the door where you need to get a key to open. This is a door where you have to actually show up. It's only when you walk up to this door, it opens. So you have to actually show up for work. You have to show up on time. You have to be friendly. There are some things we're going to talk about as well. And then when I looked and I did my research and I saw Massey's purpose, I really loved the purpose. So let me ask, this is a rhetorical question. If your next month's salary, this is for the Massey folks now, so this is a personal section. If your next month's salary is dependent on the answer to the question I'm about to ask, would you get paid? So the question is, do you know the purpose for Massey? Do you know the why of your existence? I see the purpose is a force for good. So I want to zero in on the word a force. A force means people, you're coming together to do something. To be forceful, you have to be focused. To be forceful, sometimes you have to move some mountains. You cannot do it alone. So there is no I in team and there is no I in this force. And it's not a force for selfish gain. It's not a force for selfishness. It's not a force for you to promote yourself. It's a force for good. And one of the things that I found that this was so coincidental is creating value, transforming life. Because my personal vision for my life is to create change and impact lives. So I was like, this ties in beautifully with not just who you are, but who I am. So this is a force for good, and you're supposed to be creating value while you transform lives. Be very familiar with these things, because at the end of the day, these are the values that Massey is proud of. And Massey is over 85 years old. To live that long, you have to be eating well. To live that long, you have to have a good heart. To live that long, you have to be exercising, you have to be paying attention to certain things, you have to have character, you have to have personality, you must be doing something right, being in the right place at the right time to live beyond 85. Look at what is happening throughout the region, not just in Trinidad and Tobago, Barbados, Jamaica, Guyana, Grenada, you name it. People, a lifespan for some is 18 years. 16, 21, some people not even making it to 30 in their human life, far more for a business entity. So I like honesty and integrity. I always function and I always share what I call the HIT factor. Honesty, integrity, and transparency. I love it. And your actions always match your words. This is something that I want you all to really gravitate to. Say what you mean and mean what you say. And then at the end of the day, the second one is responsibility. You have to be responsible. You have to accept responsibility for where you are. If your appraisal didn't go too well, accept responsibility. There's something you need to look at. There's something you need to go through and ask questions. And one of my favorite mantras, there is no I in team. And John Maxwell says it perfectly when I did some training with John Maxwell. We need to collaborate more and less competition, because understanding different perspectives and constantly working to create a space where everyone shares ideas is an ideal to what Massey is committed to. So I just love it. And then growth and continuous improvement. They didn't even need to put a line underneath that, because it's evident by their testimony, by their age. They're over 85. So they must have been growing, and they must be fulfilling continuous improvement. And then the magic for me was love and care. We believe that everybody matters, and everybody does matter. When I was in the banking industry, when I used to live in the UK, the first 3 people I became friends with at Morgan Stanley Investment Bank were the security, the cleaners, and the staff in the restaurant. Everyone deserves to be treated with kindness, respect, consideration, and compassion. And this is something I want all of you all to just embrace. At the end of the day, who you are will always show up. Who you are on the inside will always show up. I saw a video recently where someone locked themselves in an office. And actually, it wasn't an office. I take that back. It was a freezer room. It was a freezer room because they were in a production company. And the door, I don't know what happened. They locked themselves in. They didn't have a phone. They didn't know how to get out. And the person that rescued them was a security guard, because every afternoon that person would have a pleasant smile, say good afternoon, enjoy the rest of your shift. And when he didn't see her, he started looking at the cameras, looking to see what's going on. She would have left by now. Her car is still in the car park. And when he started looking, that's how he recognized where she was and actually saved her life. If she wasn't respectful, if she wasn't kind, she would be no more. At the end of the day, you have to think about all these people make up the team. You don't want to go to work and work on an unclean desk. Somebody would have put in some work the evening before to make sure that desk looks amazing for you. So don't walk past them, don't ignore them. Everybody matters. Work relationships don't have a personal key, because those relationships have building blocks, because there's no I in team, and we have to do this together. At the end of the day, you get to choose the level of success that you would like to acquire in your environment, in your workspace. So let's move on to family relationships. Now remember, I showed you how they all intertwine. A lot of stuff takes place in families, and sometimes you literally have to recognize that this is a double door. This is not a normal door. This is a double door. And sometimes you will see when you enter establishments that have a double door, it will say push on one side, pull on another side. And that literally means that there's an entry and there's an exit. That means you get to choose, set boundaries. A lot of times people say, I heard a CEO say before, when time is up, you need to go home. You need to go home. Family is important. The first thing God created was family. So family is important. Know who you're allowing to enter, know who you're allowing to exit. Families, the doors have different designs, but they're all a double door, and they do affect your work relationship at the end of the day. So one of the things you must remember, you have 8 hours in the workplace, depending on your shift system. Pour in to your work. Sometimes your work family are your family because you spend most time there. They have different designs because they're different people, and you don't get to choose. You don't get to choose your family. You don't get to choose your bloodline. I know some of us wish that we could choose our family members. Some of us wish that murder wasn't illegal. I know some of us wish all sorts of things when it comes to your family. But your immediate family, your work family, your family relationships, you have to manage those things and set boundaries. At the end of the day, if you are working, you won't be on the phone to your spouse for an hour because you're now at work. So you would have set some boundaries. You have your lunch break, utilize it wisely. All of these are keys to your successful living. All of these are keys so that when you are in the presence of your manager or your director, whoever does your appraisals at work, they can see your extent of your commitment. When you finish work and you go home to your family, spend quality time with your family. Family matters. Do not be a workaholic to the point where you're working all the hours God has sent and you're not taking time for your family. Because when you get that letter, that divorce decree or a relationship has ended because you're so, embodied in your work, set boundaries. This is all about you and having a successful life. And a successful life has different trees in your garden for your successful life. All of these things work together for you to have a successful life. Remember, there's a time to allow people to enter and there's a time to allow people to exit. With everything, there's a time and a season. At the end of the day, there are times when you have to close the door. And it may even be on family members who are interfering with your growth, your development, your workspace. You may have to shut people out. Know when to push. Know when to push to make it happen. Know when to pull. Know when to enter. Know when to exit. And these keys really do affect all your other relationships. So just remember to add some love, add some care. Remember to pick up the phone. Remember the season we're living in. We're literally coming out of, we're at the end, but we're coming out of a pandemic. I'm sure every single one under the sound of my voice would have lost someone to the pandemic. Whether it's a colleague, whether it's a friend, whether it's a family member, you would have lost someone. And it make you realize, how much family matters. Even when we were in the actual lockdown itself, and for us here in Trinidad, there was a point in time when you only had to leave your home for essentials. And God bless technology. So you're able to video chat with your family members. Family relationships are important. And for some of us, that is what held us together during the pandemic. Family members, how you doing? Are you okay? You're working from home? Do you need anything? Family relationships are just as important as any other type of relationship. So I hope you guys are getting some good value. This is a big one, relationships with you and your God. So let's talk about you a little bit, because I don't want you to think that the God bit is religious, because we're coming there. What relationships do you have with you? Because if you don't have a good relationship with yourself, you cannot have a good relationship with anybody else. How do you treat you? How do you treat yourself? Is there balance in your life? Or, as Ian Lavanzant rightfully puts it, is your life like a picnic in the park where people just going in and out? What's going on with you? When you wake up in the morning, do you address you? Do you look in the mirror and see how fearfully and wonderfully made you are? Are you putting the right things in your body? Is there balance? Are you putting the right things in your body? Are you exercising? Or are you just living vicariously and then you end up with all these diseases and ailments? How are you treating you? Because if you're not treating you right, people would see that you're not treating you right. People would see that you're not dressing right. People would see that you're not walking right. People would see that you don't look well. People would see. And what people see in you is how they will interpret you. So you ought to have an amazing relationship with you. Put balance in your life. You work from 8 to 4. So what time do you get up? At 7 to get to work for 8, you're living south. Humanly impossible. You have to get up earlier, spend some time with your daily devotion, do your affirmations if you do, probably exercise before you go to work, pack your lunch. Instead of buying junk food every day, pack your lunch. Or if you're purchasing food, purchase something healthy. Are you leaving with enough time in case something should happen on the highway? Or are you entering the office every day, flustered, hair all over the place, dripping wet, no makeup. Not that you need makeup, I'm just using it as an example. And then you sit at your desk, and when you sit at your desk, you're now trying to have breakfast. Then you have to make a phone call. Then you have to do 1,000,001 things. And you're supposed to start at 8, but you don't really start till about 10. Could be 10:30 on a bad day. And then by the time you start, you're just sleeping an hour work, and then you're watching your time for lunch. Or are you having an amazing relationship with you whereby you have balance and you've set boundaries? Set boundaries. I read an amazing book called Boundaries, When to Say Yes and How to Say No. That will define what keys you use in all the different relationships that you have. When to say yes and how to say no. Do you take time off for you? Or are you bombarded on a Saturday, bombarded on a Sunday, bombarded after work? You're just not taking time for you. When was the last time you did something for you? And that doesn't necessarily have to be a massage or a facial or, getting your nails done or a pedicure. And all of these things apply to men as well. It could be reading a great book. It could be just going to the seaside and just relaxing, taking in the fresh air. It could be looking at a movie that doesn't make you, cry in the wrong way, because sometimes crying is good. Sometimes you have to exhale. But at the end of the day, you'll be able to add balance, add boundaries, and add self-care when you actually know your worth. What's your relationship like with your God? As a matter of fact, who's your God? Some people, this is their God. Some people, your cell phone is your God. When you wake up in the morning, that's where you put all your attention. Some people wake up in the morning grouchy. Some people wake up in the morning and they must look at a movie. Some people wake up and do all different things. Wherever you put your focus and you look to for sustenance, that's your God. That's your God. So you have to know, if you look up and you say, Abba, Father, thank you for this day. I do nothing without you. Without you, I cannot live, I cannot die. You are the reason that I'm here. You're the one that gave me purpose. You're the one that has been sustaining me. Everybody's God is different. So my God may be different to your God, but who you have as your God will determine the relationship you have with you and the relationship with everyone around you. So when you go home, even when you come off this webinar, ask yourself, who's my God? Is a supreme being really my God? Or are you addicted to something else? Are you taking care of you? Do you understand that who you are? Do you understand that when you were born, there was purpose embedded on the inside of you? Do you understand that your success is in the palm of your hands? Sometimes we look to external sources to figure things out when everything is embedded on the inside of us. You know, the good book says that your gifts will make room for you. And that is so true. Because here I am, and I always have to say this bit. My gift is my talking, my speech, my voice. And I didn't really know that until a later stage of my life, but you will find it in your childhood, because I was always a talker. If you had asked either of my parents back then, would she be a motivational speaker? Would she be running the corporate training academy? Would she be empowering and edifying people, not just locally, regionally, and internationally with her voice? You would have gotten a big no. She may be a lawyer. She may be something else. At one point, I wanted to be a flight attendant because I just wanted to travel all over the place. But all my school reports, Wendy's a brilliant student, but too talkative. If Wendy will talk a little less, not realizing that was my gift. Your gifts make room for you. What is your gift? What is your gift? What do you have in the palm of your hands that could enhance your living that you're not utilizing? Richard Branson, I met years ago in the UK, and I said, I have one question. And I said, what is your secret to success? And he said, multiple streams of income. That means you could be at Massey at your 8 to 4. You could be at whatever place of employment during that particular shift, but you could be making money in your sleep. You could be making money in your sleep. When I was working for a corporate entity, 8 to 4, it wasn't 8 to 4. Sometimes it was 7 a.m. to sometimes 10 p.m., 11 p.m. And I learned all what I'm sharing with you is based on my own personal experience. I had to find myself and recognize that I needed a relationship with me and my God to become a better version of me. So when I was finished working on a particular contract till 2 a.m., because we got it at crunch time, and I was driving home and a light bulb went off in my head, and I said, you just made millions for this company. What about you? You could redefine your Trinidad and Tobago School of Protocol, which was at the side, it was another stream of income. And I was doing that on the weekends, corporate protocol and etiquette training for kids, for adults, etc. This is way before the pandemic. And I said, you know what? It's time to expand the Trinidad and Tobago School of Protocol to the Trinidad and Tobago Corporate Training Academy, do some research, add some more skills to the bucket, do some more, training, etc., and become a better version of you. And that's how the Corporate Training Academy was birthed. I resigned. I was a senior advisor and lecturer. 2 definite salaries, 2 guaranteed sources of income. And sometimes when you want to have a successful life, you have to take a dive. You have to take a chance. You have to be a risk taker. And I took a leap of faith. But faith without works is dead. So with all the faith I had to get a new logo. I had to get my website done. I had to go get some additional training. I had to network with other facilitators. I had to build the brand. You can't just say, I want a successful life and expect manna to drop from the skies. It's not happening like that. We're in 2022. You have to physically do something. So your relationship with you and your God, your relationship with everybody and everything around you depends on you. So we would have defined intimate relationships, work relationships, relationships with family, relationships with you and your God. At the end of the day, whatever life you would like to have, believe it or not, is in the palm of your hands. You get an opportunity. Bishop T.D. Jakes says that your life is a reflection of the choices you make. And I'm not saying that everybody has an easy life. There are some people who were birthed in some crazy circumstances. There are people who are victims of abuse daily. There are perpetrators that don't even know why they do what they do. We have all sorts of things happening in this world, but we want to get to the root of the matter so that we can have a better relationship, not just with our intimate partners, with our work colleagues, with our family, but relationships with you and your God. At the end of the day, set boundaries, just set it up nicely. Decide who you want to let in. Decide what you want to do. When you finish and you go home, ask yourself, what else can I be doing? What's your gift? What do you like to do? I have so many friends who are caterers because that's where their gifts lie. They can cook. They can cook. There are people who are doing hair and all these different things. And I'll just share this short, for want of a better word, it would be her testimony as opposed to mine. I was asked to speak to 175 young ladies at the Victim and Witness Support Unit. And these would be young ladies who would have just come out of the system. And they didn't look like they wanted to hear a word I had to say. They didn't look like they were enjoying the program. They looked depressed, and even the speaker before myself, I'm like, wow, okay, Wendy, this one's going to be different. And I had my speech, everything on my tablet, and I was getting ready to share from a different place. And I just put that tablet down. And after being introduced, I said to them, then what? You've been through the system. You're here now because you would like to get support, because you're now going to be placed in that big outside world. And then what? Where do we go from here as young ladies? What next? You're here to get some answers. And I started talking to them about their gifts, etc. And one of them said, I am better off where I was. I said, why do you think that? Because that was life for me, miss. That's all I know. They were my only family in there. And I said, where do you see yourself? She said, back in there. I said, is that really where you want to be? Or do you think what I believe about you could be true? And she said, well, what do you believe? And I am saying it nicely and corporately, but because we're dealing with people who have so much hurt and pain on the inside. And she said, "But so how do you see me?" I said, "You're beautiful, you're amazing, you're wonderfully made. I believe that you have a gift inside of you. You just need to find it and it will make room for you. I believe that you can be a light to your generation. I believe that you can transform your community." And she is just looking at me, and I just went on, and she just broke down and said to me, nobody ever said those things to me before. Even my family, I kept being reminded of what I did, why I did it, and how much shame I brought on them. I said, so you now have to focus on you and start to build a relationship with you. How do you see you? You are not defined by what other people say. How do you see you? So I say all that to say that anybody can have a successful life. You just have to make different choices. So at the end of the day, I really hope that this was edifying. It was uplifting. It was educational. I really hope that you can take something from it. Everything would not mean the same thing for everyone, but at the end of the day, I just wanted to give you some keys so that you can have a successful life. The way to get started is easy. Quit talking and begin doing. That's Walt Disney. And remember, every time you enter a relationship, you open a door. Because I can hear you thinking, well, okay, I probably have a gift. I probably could be doing this. I probably could be doing that. How do I start? Quit talking. Quit talking. And ladies, I'm saying we, I'm not even going to say you. Sometimes we talk too much. Sometimes we're busy reacting as opposed to just listening. And one of the things that I saw even when they were playing the introduction, good leaders speak, great leaders listen. So we should listen more. So the way to get started is to quit talking and begin doing. When you master the keys to these doors, you're on your way to intentional and successful living. Your intimate relationships spill over into your work relationships, spill over into your family relationships, and then yourself and your God. My name is Wendy H. Lewis. Thank you so much for having me.
Wow. Wendy, thank you. I want to thank you for reminding us that we do indeed need to come together. We need to collaborate more. We need to set our boundaries, close a few doors, open some new doors, Wendy, and to look after ourselves. So thank you for that message. Thank you so much. I'm going to hand you over to Renee Barnett, and Renee will take you through some questions, and of course we wait for your answers. Thank you, Wendy. Renee?
You're more than welcome, Dawn. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much, Dawn, and thank you so much, Wendy. Our first question in the Q&A box this morning is from an anonymous person. Wow. I'm 30 years old, a mom of two. Due to the current economic situation, I'm finding it challenging to meet my goals, even the small ones. Is it ever too late to accomplish what we want to do?
Never. Never, 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 never. Love the question. Thank you. Never. Age is just a number. We have this story with Colonel. How old was he when he started his KFC brand? As long as you have life, there is hope. And don't let and I would say this, don't let what you perceive to be the negative side of your situation determine how you go forward. So, okay, we have some economical issues. We have, some people may say we have an economical crisis. You're a single mother of two. And those are things that are embedded in us culturally, religiously over the years. So what if you're a single mom? So what if you're a single mom? You may not have chosen your situation. We keep putting stigmas on ourselves that society has placed on us. You could be the best single mom ever. Don't put yourself in a bracket because you're a single mom. And not because you're a single mom, and this is for all the single mothers out there, not because you see someone who's a single mom, mean they're a single mom because they made a bad choice. They could be a single mom because their husband passed away. They could be a single mom that their husband passed away before they even gave birth, died while they were pregnant. And one of the things I like to urge people is be less judgmental. Be less judgmental. So for the answer for that question, no, no, no. There's always hope as long as you have life. Empower yourself. Encourage yourself. David encouraged himself. Encourage yourself. I can do it. I can break barriers. I can be whatever I want to be. My children will be the best children. They will have the best education. Their gifts will make room for them. This open space that you have where you feel as though finances may not be trickling down, you may think that's a negative thing. In that moment, in that space is where you now have to think outside the box. So many people are making money online. What is your gift? What can you do that could generate an income even whilst you look for what you believe to be your 8 to 4, your 9 to 5? And you may even find that when you find your gift and it starts to make room for you, you don't even want to go into the workspace anymore. So that would be my response.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that response. Thank you so much. On to our next question now. What strategies do you employ to keep focused? There is so much in daily life to distract us.
So your answer is in your question. You answer your own self. Focus. Focus, focus, focus. What do I do? What are my strategies? I set really hard boundaries. Boundaries for me is a master key in my life. So I'll just give you a good example. I get up at 5 a.m. every morning, say my prayers, do my devotion, get myself together. I mean, well, this week in particular, we have a 5:30 session online, but even outside of that, I get up early in the morning. Early in the morning, in the still. You see, you can't want to spend time. Let me flip it this way. If you're in a relationship with somebody, this is for the person with the question, and you want to spend quality time with them, you want to get to know them, you will not go in the middle of a stadium, in the middle of a cricket match or a sporting game or a party, or even in the middle of a church service, because you need quality time so that you two can communicate effectively. That is why you get up early in the morning. Rise early is the first key I will give to you. Rise early, because you don't want to be trying to pray at 9 a.m., traffic buzzing, doorbell ringing, children screaming. Focus. Focus, set boundaries, and the same boundaries you set when you have a personal diary, even if that diary is your cell phone or your tablet. I have a diary for my entire life, even outside of work. So I know when I get up in the morning what I'm doing, what time I'm doing it. I have a work from home day. I have days where I go out to meetings. I have corporate training. When I am not in what you may call work mode, I know what I'm doing in my personal space. Even my supermarket shopping is a schedule. On a Sunday after church, go have lunch with my mom. You always know what you're doing. You can't just live your life vicariously. You have to set boundaries, be focused, be ridiculously focused. And the other thing I would say to you is, even when you set up those boundaries, distractions will come. And you get an opportunity when to say yes and how to say no. The world is doing what the world has to do, you know. All the buzz that's happening outside, they're doing what they're supposed to do. You have an opportunity to make a better choice. All the people and things that may be distracting you, you've given them the opportunity to distract you because you've allowed them to come into a door, same doors we were talking about earlier, that you should have locked and you left it open. So you're at home one day, the phone rings, we're in 2022, so you could identify your callers. Not today. You're going to take up too much of my time. You are calling me to talk to me about Auntie Jean and Auntie June and what happened in it. No, not today. Today I need to be focused. Today I need to make this list of things that I need to do for my children, for whatever. So I would say to you, focus, set boundaries, be committed. And whilst you're being committed, stay committed. That would be my response.
Another great response. Thank you so much again, Wendy. Moving on to our next question. This is a good one as well. So you spoke of multiple streams of income. How does one balance working for a company and also starting your own business?
Mega easy, you know. Boundaries, boundaries. So you're working for a company, you're working 8 to 4. During that time, you're working 8 to 4. You now have to remember that there's no elevation without separation. You have to separate some things and prioritize your life. So you could be working your 8 to 4, but before you even hit work, you've put some stuff up online. There's so many tools out there that can assist us. So for example, you could be selling products online. You could set your questions now before time. I do it all the time. A lot of time people think that I'm on social media and I'm not. It would be because Sunday evening I would have set all my questions, all my social media accounts are interlinked. So you will see something go up on the Corporate Training Academy page, which will also be up on the Corporate Training Academy page on LinkedIn. And you set all those things up and you get to decide. So for example, you want to do an online business, you want to get involved in network marketing, that pretty much happens after work. You have stuff that you're selling, set boundaries, strategize, structure. You have to be very organized and very structured. When I was in the workplace, I was in network marketing. I'm still in network marketing. But between working hours, life is happening. Sometimes during my lunch break, I'm sharing with colleagues about a business opportunity. Sometimes on my way home, I'm on my Bluetooth having a conversation. How do you feel about another stream of income? I'm sending you a link in about 30 minutes. Take a look at it, get back to me. And then what I would do, what I used to do, is I will gather all the people of interest, or maybe your target audience, depending on your product and service, and say to them, join me on a Zoom. I used to do Zooms Wednesday at 8 p.m. Let me share with everybody at the same time, take your questions, send you a link, you sign up, you have access, let's go out there and make some money. So it's about being very structured. You have to be really organized for it to work. You have to have patience. You have to be committed. You have to be structured. Your word is your honor. Because you have to get to work on time and you also have to treat with these individuals. So multiple streams of income is easy with structure. And then as you build, you will get assistance. We have a lot of people who are volunteering to assist with startup companies and all the rest of it. It is really, really easier than you think. But as I said, coming down to the end, start. Stop talking, start doing. Start. Just start. Just start. Eventually you'll rebrand, eventually you'll change some things, and you will make mistakes. You will fall. It's okay. How you fall, when you fall, where you fall, just get back up. So that's my answer to that question.
Great, thank you so much. I think we know the answer to the next question, but I'll still throw it to you either way. Hi, I'm 37 years old and a supervisor in logistics. It's a 24/7 job since my direct reports work shift. I get calls all hours of the day and night. Can I get some guidance on how do I deal with the overspill of my work and intimate door?
This may not be the answer you're expecting. If your job is taking up 100% of your life, you're in the wrong job. Because that means your life has no balance. Because you're working 24/7. You don't have time for you. You don't have time for your family. You don't have time for your partner. You don't have time for your God. So you are in the wrong job. So sometimes we have to make harsh decisions. There are people that don't work on Sundays for not just religious reasons, but that's my family day. There are people that don't take jobs where you have to work on the weekend. You get to choose. You have to have a balanced life. You cannot be all work. You're not doing yourself any good. Because at the end of the day, when that good day comes, and it's going to come for all of us, where you have to have your eulogy read, you are a number in a system. They will send you flowers. They will talk about how good and committed you were. But then did you fulfill purpose before you leave the face of the earth? So then you now have to make a choice. How successful a life do you want to have? And if you are recognizing that you clearly cannot have the life that you want because of the job that you do, then you have to compromise and either negotiate less hours so that you can have a balanced life, or you may have to change your job completely. Sometimes the harsh truth is what some people don't want to hear.
All right, moving along nicely because we see the time is going. You mentioned encouraging yourself and speaking to yourself. What value is there in telling yourself something positive that is not a reality yet?
You empower yourself. You empower yourself. You boost your own self-esteem. There are so many things you want to achieve, you want to accomplish. You have to speak it into being. Life and death is in the power of the tongue. Sometimes we speak ourselves into an unsuccessful life because we get up in the morning and, oh, today's another day. Oh, Lord, I have to face those folks at work. This one doesn't like me. This one didn't appreciate what I said. This one didn't appreciate what I did. Appreciate yourself. Wake up in the morning. I am fearfully and wonderfully made. I am a child of the universe. I am going to hit the road. Everything that I have on my list, I'm going to accomplish. You get in your vehicle. When I jump in my van, I say, I am divinely protected. Let's go. And I am always empowering myself. That wasn't always the case. I didn't realize that a lot of times when I speak things out, I was speaking negatively over my own life, and then the universe ain't bothering with you because that's where you want to be. We have to watch the words that we say about our circumstance and to ourselves. So even if you're not seeing the lawyer, you're not seeing the doctor, the money just ain't, it's just impossible. You just have to start speaking it. And this is where I talk about and even have workshops on vision boards. Where do you see yourself? What's the vision you have for your life? Do you have a vision for your life? And you know, they say write the vision and make it plain. You have to write it down. Write down the things that you want to achieve, the things that you want to become, and then realistically say, what do I need to do to achieve this? Let's say you want to become a lawyer. The manna is not dropping from the sky. You have to study. Are you ready to study? Do you have the qualifications to enter that arena? Do you need to get another O level? Do you need to, what do you need to do? Okay, do you have the funds? We don't have GATE no more. Do you have the funds? What do I need to do to accumulate the funds? Do I need to take a loan? Is it realistic for me to take the loan? Can I pay back this loan if I take the loan? What sort of job do I need? So then, can I do this full time? No, if you can't do it full time, then do it part time. So you work, and when I studied in the UK, I was working during the day. And let me tell you something, I worked from 9 to 5, went to university from 6 to 9 p.m. And then I was in a call center from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. You got to do what you got to do. You know, how bad do you want it? How bad do you want your successful life? Some people sit in a comfort zone, and I'm not saying that the person that asks the question sits in a comfort zone, but some people sit in a comfort zone and they don't want to stretch. You have to stretch. You have to stretch. You have to sacrifice. There are some things you have to say. There are some things you have to do. There's some people you need to lock out. There are some things, some events you will not be able to attend. You're studying, you're writing. You don't have time to be in a bar every Friday, wine bar or other bar. You don't have time when you're focused on your goals. Focus. So that would be my response as well about empowering yourself. Speak positively over you. And let me just say this before I end my answer. Do not accept negative words that people have spoken over your life. You are not their opinion. You are who God says you are and who you want to be. So they said to you, oh, nothing good's come out of that area. You know what? My response would be, life is really difficult for the blind. Just keep it moving. You have to shut those people out, lock those doors, and remember, you have the key. So that will be my answer.
Great, thank you. We have the key. Thank you so much.
Yes.
All right, so I have 2 more comments and then our final question before we hand back over to Dawn, because I'm looking at the time. One person said, thanks so much for your advice. Another person said, thanks for those strategies on keeping focused. I used to do some of them and stopped. You have just reminded me.
Awesome. I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much.
Our last question now. I'm 34 years old. I have a business and still working. I realize I am not putting my all into my business, and also I'm not marketing my business good enough. I'm gifted with my hands. My problem is I am not focused and I'm miserable and discouraged sometimes. How can I market myself more? Right now, everything is really expensive. Business is slowing down at the moment.
Right, so let me see if I can remember all of that. So firstly, you're saying that you're not focused. Your answer is in the question. You're not focused. Why aren't you focused? What is distracting you? Get to the root core of the problem. Get to the root of the issue. It will not happen if you keep chopping off the trees, the leaves of the tree. You have to get to the root of the matter. So the root is that and one of the things I will applaud that person who have asked that question is you've accepted responsibility for where you are. You've said, I am not focused. So then what is creating your distractions? That's where you start. Why am I distracted? Is it social media? Is it an issue with family? Whatever it is, and start to deal with that distraction. It could mean that you need to apply boundaries, when to say yes, how to say no. And then I think that you mentioned about the actual business being marketed online. You can market your business online by pre-marketing. There's strategic marketing. It depends on what type of business as well. So I wouldn't be able to define the type of strategic tools because I'm not sure what type of business it is, but you can do strategic marketing. You can set posts for even when, okay, so for example, I have an interview workshop coming up. I've posted it. We boost the post, let it run. There's a link for people to register. I just glance at it from time to time. My assistant Shanice will say to me, okay, we've reached 42, we've reached this, we've reached that. So there are things that you can do and allow it to run in the background. Sometimes we want to do too much and overwork ourselves when in 2022, we have so many strategies to assist us with online and strategic marketing. So I would also say, find the things that are distracting you, deal with them from the root, do a lot of research into the options you have based on the type of business that you have as well. And if you decide that you want further information, you can contact me as well, because we do an entrepreneurial workshop from time to time, and I would be able to share some tools with you. If we have a one-on-one, I would be able to share tools based on the type of business that you're doing, because a security firm and a caterer is two different strategies. So that would be my answer there.
All right, excellent. Thank you so much, Wendy. I hand over now to Dawn.
Thank you, Renee, and certainly, Wendy, thank you so much again. It was great having you sharing those keys with us. To the audience, I want to say something before I end off. I want to give a shout out to the Wellness and Benefits team, and I'll tell you why, because a lot of the things discussed here this morning, in order to get out of our rut, if you're miserable, if we are feeling a bit downtrodden, if we don't have the answers, remember that at Massey, the Wellness and Benefits team, we offer an EAP, Employee Assistance Program. They're confidential counselors, psychiatrists, psychologists. You can go talk it out. You can go get it on track and get on the way to that successful living. Regain the keys that you might have lost so that you can do better. So thank you so much for being here, for joining us again. Remember to look out for a few of our programs coming up. Let Go and Grow, something perfect to follow this session. Managing Change. Every manager is an HR manager, and so much more. So until, please take care, please stay safe, and above all, continue to level up. Bye-bye for now.